What are we talking about? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play. Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40! Can't wait! Let's go!
Good morning. Welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine, whether you are doing it on Facebook or YouTube, or maybe you're watching us live on Roku TV right now. Thanks to Northeast Streaming Sports, we are happy that you are here. I am Chris, and of course, that is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
Doing well, Chris. Doing well. Just watched an amazing basketball game last night, so I'm kind of on a high.
Which one was it?
Golden State versus Sacramento.
See, the Warriors lost. I wasn't feeling it.
Well, the Warriors lost because the Warriors gave the game away late.
They tend to have a history of doing that, Mo.
Turnovers has always been a part of that's been their biggest bugaboo, even during their biggest success. They turned the ball over a lot.
They also lost Peyton and CP3 last night, correct?
Yeah, correct. They did. Yeah.
Not great in Warrior land, sir.
No, more questions than answers right now.
And they are knocked out of the in-season tournament.
Yeah. And the thing is, because they were playing the Kings, and there was something said that they had to beat the Kings by 12 or more points to go to the knockout round. So there was a reason why they kept playing the way they played, which contributed to them losing. Because normally with 30 seconds left, Draymond Green's not pushing the ball up the floor trying to look for somebody to score. You're just trying to milk the clock till somebody fouls you. That ended up hurting them.
That silly in-season tournament, Mo. I'm telling ya. I spent my night last night watching Hard Knocks. Episode 2 for the Miami Dolphins. I don't know if anyone out there has taken the time to enjoy this amazing programming that NFL Network puts together. Obviously, it's more amazing when it's your team. It's a little more meaningful. Last night's episode obviously highlighted the Black Friday win against the New York Jets, but more importantly, it focused on Jalen Phillips and the season that he was having. Obviously, if you are a Dolphin fan, when you were watching the first, 30 minutes of last night's episode, you knew how it was going to end, and you knew why they were spotlighting Jalen Phillips and the season that he's had this season, because he tore his Achilles in the game versus the New York Jets. But Mo, I have to say this: we see injuries in the NFL all the time, and we see teams kind of gather around whatnot. What we don't oftentimes get to see, or more specifically, we don't get to hear what's taking place in those moments. And last night, Hard Knocks provided everything from the moment that he went down. You could hear the audio of his reaction as he was being injured. And then you were able to hear everything that took place in the moments from him going down the turf to the first person coming over to help him up, to him being loaded up onto the cart. It was emotional, and it was an interesting point of view, because again, injuries happen in the league all the time. We see season-ending injuries happen multiple times a season, and for fans at home, it's the same thing, right? The team gathers around. You're like, oh, this could be serious. They bring out the cart, and then you wait to hear what it is. Well, last night with Jalen Phillips, you got to hear him cuss as he went down. And then as the first person hit him, he said right away, I think I popped it. I think I popped my Achilles. And his teammates were like, shut up. You didn't. You're fine. Like, don't say that. And Coach McDaniel got over there and he goes, Mike, I did it. I popped my Achilles. And, the trainers are touching him and they're trying to figure out what it is. And he's telling them, don't touch me. It hurts. And then he just breaks down and starts sobbing uncontrollably because he knows what he did. He knows what it was, and he knows that his season is over. And to kind of see his teammates rally around him, and there wasn't a lot of talking from their end, because what do you say? What do you say to a guy who knows that his season is over, and he knows, and with his injury career, I mean, he retired from football in college initially because of injuries, only to come back at Miami in college because he thought his body could handle it, to then get drafted into the NFL. And obviously his career is not done. It's just an Achilles injury. He's going to come back next season. But the point is, it was a 3-year journey for him where he was finally having consistent success in the NFL. And now his season is cut short just past the halfway point. So it was interesting, Mo. It's interesting to kind of see that human element of the game, which I think sometimes we forget with fantasy football and wins and losses and stats and all that kind of stuff.
I didn't see it, but and honestly, because it ended the way you said it ended, I don't want to see it. But I do think that we forget that when they're injured, we move on and we finish watching the game. And they start on a completely different journey with surgery and rehabbing and the emotional toll and physical toll it takes on them. Like, it's devastating for an athlete to get an injury, but when you get an injury and it's a severe injury, you know everything that entails, but you also know the journey you're getting ready to go on because of the injury. And I can understand the devastation and the emotion of the moment. In high school, I ripped my knee up, and I knew I wasn't going to play football no more, at least not the way that I used to play football. It just changed everything for me. So I can relate to the fact that, in my case, I was done. I wish this young man nothing but the best, and I'm sure he'll get a 100% recovery. But I do understand when you put in the type of work that he put in, and like you said, he actually went away from college football because of injuries. For him to bounce back, get himself healthy, get himself drafted into the NFL, be on such a high and on a roll and be in his moment, and that kind of injury can just bring you crashing back down to earth. So I wish him nothing but the best.
And again, if it's one of those things where if you haven't seen Hard Knocks, unless you're like a Jets fan or a Bills fan, you absolutely despise the Miami Dolphins. If you don't have a personal hatred for the Dolphins, I do suggest you check it out. It's everything that NFL Networks does and puts their hands on it. It usually becomes top-notch material, and Hard Knocks is no different. And I will say, as a Dolphin fan, I watched some of the New York Jets Hard Knocks because I knew it was going to be entertaining TV, and it did not disappoint. So even if you are a Jets fan or a Bills fan, just acknowledge the fact that the Dolphins are much better than you and just watch Hard Knocks, all right? Just embrace it. Come on now.
Get with the program, guys. Come on.
Exactly. Mo, you mentioned the NBA earlier in the show, and we're supposed to have Will on this morning, but Will's feeling a little under the weather. But we're going to still discuss a couple of NBA topics, Mo, and I wanted to start it with Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is actually selling a significant stake in the Dallas Mavericks. I believe it's just under 40% if the trade goes through. He would still be the majority owner, but it is a big chunk that he is giving up. Mo, do you think it's one of those situations, and obviously we don't know because the deal hasn't gone through yet, so Mark hasn't really talked about it, as a good businessman should not do, and that's one thing that Mark Cuban is a good businessman. Yeah. But Mo, obviously he's still going to be the majority owner, so he's still going to be present around the organization and what have you. What do you think as far as the success the Mavs have or have not had in the time that Cuban has been there? Obviously, this is probably a business venture on his part. Obviously, he is probably going to be using the sale of the equity that he's giving up to do something else business-wise.
Sure.
Like I said, he's still going to be the majority owner, so it's not like he's going anywhere. And just by selling, 40% of the team, it doesn't mean that you're no longer invested in basketball. So clearly there's a business reason behind it. So let's look more at what Cuban has done for the Mavs and the organization. Because when he came in, you might remember, Mo, nobody liked him. Nobody liked Mark Cuban.
No.
And even Dallas Maverick fans did not like Mark Cuban when he came into the league. And there are still probably NFL executives, even though he has calmed down as he has gotten older, there are still probably a lot of NFL execs who do not like Mark Cuban. But there was this thought that when he came into the league, were we going to see a trend in NBA ownership that went younger, that went, more of the fan routes instead of the typical, stodgy 80-year-old, no energy, don't ever really see the owner's face kind of deal.
Yeah,
and it hasn't kind of shifted that way. But
Correct.
Do you think overall that Mark Cuban's been good for the NBA?
I do, because I think that he pushed a lot of different buttons. And I don't know how many fans remember this. Mark Cuban, in many ways, is a big reason why you have the game that you have today, that the way the game is played. I don't know if they know this. He's a big part of the competition committee. He was the head at one point, but I remember him saying it in an interview after he watched the 2003, 2004 finals. That was the Lakers and Pistons. He said, "We have to do something about this game." He said, "We have to do something about this game." He said, it's not entertaining. How are we going to grow a fan base with a game unless you're a diehard NBA fan, it's not aesthetically pleasing to look at. He said something that Silver said in later years. He said the quiet thing out loud: you can have lesser talented teams beat more talented teams by simply roughing them up and being more physical. You could. Not to say that Pistons team wasn't talented, because they actually were, but he wanted to change the style of play, and they did it. They changed it. They changed the physicality and the hand checking rule again. It had been changed many times, but the last time they changed it, it was the bigger impact, because the floor they also spaced the floor out too. They changed so many rules, but if you didn't have that change, I don't know, you wouldn't have the game you have today. And some of the purists may be like, "Oh, go back to the old days." Look, I've seen both brands of basketball. I think today's brand of basketball overall is much more entertaining. I'm not going to argue that it is. And maybe if we didn't get that, you wouldn't be able to see the birth of a Steph Curry, who's an all-time great now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Mark Cuban had that type of impact, and I don't know how many people know that, but he did. And it was evident, I think, in the 06 series, because when they implement changes like that, it takes the referees a year or two, because they're used to doing it a certain way for over 20 years. So to actually fully implement it, you didn't see that change until, funny enough, the Dallas Mavericks played the Miami Heat in the finals. And because of the new rules changes, Dwayne Wade got fouled 100 times, and he shot 1,000 free throws, and the Heat beat the Mavericks. But that he ate that. That was his medicine. But that's what he wanted to see more of, to discourage the foul and the physicality. As an owner, I think he's a trailblazer. No, the Mavs hadn't won 10 titles, but they have won one title, and they've been relevant for years. He's put talented, entertaining teams on the floor for years. They just haven't been able to break through, with the exception of the 1 year with Dirk. So I think that basketball fans love Mark Cuban to a degree. I still don't know if the old boys club of the owners love him so much, because like you said, I thought at the time, like you, that he was going to bring in a wave of younger, energetic, idealistic owners, and that didn't really happen overall. You still have most of these teams owned by, let's call it, old money, right? Families that have had them for years and years and years. So the league hasn't changed that much. And I do think, to some degree, the old guard has never really embraced Mark Cuban.
That's definitely evident. And he hasn't directly talked about it. He's hinted at it in interviews. Because that's what Mark does. He kind of puts his thoughts out there and lets you make what you want to make out of it. And he's definitely hinted at that in previous interviews. Another thing I want to talk about this morning, Mo, was good old Pat Bev. So Pat Bev is always good for a comment. Pat Bev is always good for a soundbite. You may not know this, because I mean, I knew it, but I didn't know it was this deep. And Pat Bev apparently is not friends with Austin Reeves. And not only is he not friends with him, it looks like he's making it his personal mission to every time he plays Austin Reeves, he is just going to try to lock him down and make him have the most miserable night of basketball that he possibly can because, and I know it sounds ridiculous, because of the two short comments or the two little comments that Austin Reeves made last season. Now, you might recall this. There was a hand gesture involved in it. And then, we thought we saw the retaliation, the next time or the 2 times later they played where Pat Bev, hit the shot and he did the little hand thing as well. And we're like, oh, that was his upcoments from that. He got back at him and we're done. Well, apparently we're not done because Pat Bev was on a radio show or a podcast and he said that there's still beef between him and Austin Reeves. This coming off of the Lakers losing to the 76ers the other night where Pat Bev did lock down for the most part Austin Reeves for the majority of the night. And if he wasn't locking him down, he was in his face and in his back pocket the entirety of the game. And Pat Bev came out and said that I told them that that's the guy I want to cover. I want to be on him the entire night. The entire night, I want him to know what he said about me last season. And then he went on to say that every time we play the Lakers, every time that I play the Lakers, every time that I'm on the floor with Austin Reeves, that's how it's going to be. I get, Austin took a shot at him. You called him little. I get it. You feel a certain way about it. And the next time that you see that guy on the floor, you're going to play big and remind him that, you ain't that little. And that's what Pat Bev did. This was before, though. This was before this week's game. He already did that. He already played him again. He already reminded him that he isn't little. He already gave him back the hand gesture. Why didn't it end there? Why has this become a mission of Pat Bev to take out Austin Reeves, who, by the way, folks, is not the face of the Lakers? It's not like he's coming after LeBron or AD.
Right.
I mean, I know that Laker fans like Austin Reeves and see potential in him, but when you look at the upper echelon of the faces of the NBA, most guys don't go after the 3rd or 4th best player on a team the way Pat Bev is locking in on Austin Reeves.
And I feel like I watched the game when Austin Reeves put his hand down to show like he was too small. And Pat Bev was jawing from that point on, and he hasn't stopped jawing. And this isn't even just about competition. It's clearly personal. Now, Pat Bev will tell you that they're beefing. Austin Reeves will tell you, like, I don't know what the guy's talking about. Like, Austin Reeves has moved on. He didn't know they're beefing. He knows what he knows is for some reason this guy doesn't like me, but he didn't know they were beefing. I think a lot of people, because Austin Reeves kind of came out of nowhere and had the success that he's had, and he is a very good basketball player. A lot of guys come for Austin Reeves. Like, Austin Reeves came out of nowhere, built himself up, and earned himself a significant contract. And a lot of guys have been in the league a lot longer than Austin Reeves and have not come close to earning that type of contract. I think there is a bit of maybe jealousy, maybe you can call it hating, whatever you want to call it. With Pat Bev, I think it's a little bit of both. Pat Bev, one, is just a competitor. He's fierce, and he's one of those guys that he wants his respect all day, every day. And if you slight him, or at least he thinks you slight him in any way, he will not let it go. So I believe him when he says, no matter what, I want to guard that guy. I want that guy. It's not surprising. And I want to remind people, Pat Beverly, I believe he's like a 13, 14-year veteran. He's been in the league a minute. This isn't a young 25-year-old. This is a guy probably more like 35, and he's still having beef with guys. So in a way, I kind of love it because that's his personality, and that's what he brings to every team that he's played for. I'm just wondering why he hasn't gotten over the whole small thing because, like you said, he did it back to Austin Reeves. So I thought, well, you got him back. There you go. I'm not too small, and we move on. And Pat Bev is more like, no, we're not ever moving on. So, yeah.
I mean, I hope Austin Reeves isn't going to bed at night being like, oh man, that Pat Bev gonna get me.
He's at home, and his wife's like, Austin, you're not eating. It's Pat Bev.
Pat Bev.
Pat Bev. Could be.
Mo, we've moved on to the next parts of the in-season tournament. We've knocked out a bunch of teams. We're down to our final 8. What are your takes so far as what the in-season tournament has done for the league? Obviously, they have put millions and millions of dollars into promoting this tournament and executing it with the floors and the uniforms and everything that they've done. So the NBA is clearly all in on the in-season tournament. But as a fan, from the announcement to where we are today, what are your takeaways from how it's being executed, and are you enjoying it at all?
So it's basketball. I'm gonna enjoy it. I've enjoyed it. It can be confusing for even me at times, just because of all the little intricacies that they have. Like last night watching the Warriors, I'm like, you're up 8, and there's a minute left to play. Why are you chucking up shots? They had to chuck up shots because they needed to be up 12, I believe, to advance to the knockout round. For some reason, that was a stipulation with them and the Kings. So I've enjoyed it. And it's interesting because like the Sixers obliterated the Lakers the other night, destroyed them, and it's a terrible loss, brutal loss. But in terms of the tournament, didn't affect the Lakers at all. The Lakers, they won their group, and the Lakers are undefeated within the tournament. So it's interesting because you have to keep up with that. You see your team lose, and you're like, but they've lost 3 in a row. Like they haven't lost any in the tournament. There's a difference. And so in the tournament, the Lakers are undefeated, and they look to be one of the favorites to be there at the end. I've enjoyed it because teams like Orlando have stepped up, though. Sadly, Orlando just got eliminated the other night. But you watch this young team, and they've come out of nowhere, and it's entertaining basketball. I'm watching a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves, who I don't think a lot of us thought title contender, but this looks like a different Timberwolves. You're seeing a better, more mature Anthony Edwards. You're seeing Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. Their minutes are more staggered. They just have more floor balance. They're a better basketball team. So overall, I've enjoyed the tournament and I've enjoyed the season. So it has been entertaining basketball for me.
All right, Mo, what we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we got a lot of NFL stuff to get into. We have injuries. We have new information on coaches possibly getting fired. Okay. We have a sports analyst who said that Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the league right now.
Wow.
I know. We'll get to all of that and more when we come back. Don't go anywhere. It's Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show here on Sports Empire Network.
Hey, y'all, I'm Key.
And I'm Jory, and tune in to Hoop Dreams and Touchdown Queens every Saturday at 5 p.m. over on Sports Empire Network.
And don't forget, also watch us on Roku TV at Northeast Streaming Productions. So tune in.
Welcome back. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. News came out yesterday that Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts, he is going to miss the next 2 to 3 weeks. He has a thumb injury that requires surgery. Not great news, Mo, if you are the Indianapolis Colts, as you are in the middle of a potential playoff run.
Not great news, and once again, not great news if you're a running back looking for a big contract. We go through this all the time, and I love Jonathan Taylor, and I root for everybody to get their money. But when the Colts relented and they gave him this money, they're like, here we go, let's do this, and here you go. Now he's going to miss significant time, and this is a big part of their season because they're still in the hunt right now. And just like that, one of their best weapons is gone. I'm sure there are owners sitting there looking right now, and they're going, "We tried to tell you. You don't give them money. We tried to tell you. When are you going to learn or say you don't pay running backs? You don't. I mean, it's a harsh reality, but I just think that every time a top name running back who's got money goes down, you're just setting up running backs for the future. Matter of fact, I would say you're setting up guys who are running backs in college right now going like, I might switch to wideout. I might become a corner or something. Like maybe in high school, the guys are looking around and going, it might be time for a change. It's just a harsh reality. Think about this, and you know this, a backup quarterback a good backup quarterback will get a bigger contract than a running back. And the team will be content with that, obviously, because of the value of a quarterback, especially when yours could potentially go down. I don't want to get into the whole running back value thing, but the reality is it's a big loss for the Colts. It really is, because they're in the hunt. Minshew has been playing better. Their defense has been solid. So it's just a big loss going down the stretch.
If you're the Indianapolis Colts, I mean, I'll say it. You might be the most surprising team of the season in the fact that you had zero expectations coming into this season. Most people picked you to finish last or close to last in your division. No one knew what the rookie quarterback was going to be. Then the rookie quarterback starts getting hurt. Then the rookie quarterback is done for the season. And now everyone's like, well, they're going to win 3 or 4 games. That's that. And here you are, 6-5. You are currently the 7th seed in the playoffs if the playoffs were to start today. And your next 3 games, I mean, I'll go a step further. The rest of your schedule is very manageable, Mo. They got the 3 games that JT is going to miss are in Tennessee, in Cincinnati, at home for Pittsburgh. I can see them beating Tennessee without Jonathan Taylor. I can see them beating Cincinnati without Jonathan Taylor. We don't know what the Steelers are going to be in 3 weeks. We know they're not really good at scoring points. We do know they have a great defense, though, and their offense actually put up yardage last week. So maybe that putting up of yardage will turn into points over the next 2 or 3 weeks as they continue to figure out their new offensive system. The Steelers game will probably be the most challenging of those 3 games. If they go 2-1 without Jonathan Taylor, and maybe they lose that game even if Jonathan Taylor is there because Pittsburgh just has more talent on their roster, you're now looking at an 8-6 team with 3 weeks to play in the season. 3 weeks. And those 3 games are against the Falcons, the Raiders, and then probably a playoff deciding game with the Texans. So the Colts, you're looking at the Colts now, they could easily be a 9 or 10 win team. And this was a team that we were saying at the start of the season, 3-4 wins. And they're doing this with Gardner Minshew as their backup quarterback. And to your point, Mo, that is the value of a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, say no less than, and it's funny that it's happening to the Colts,
That's
the team that
right.
started, this whole we're not paying the running back conversation, because had they not paid Gardner Minshew to be their backup quarterback and they paid somebody else, they would not be in this spot right now. They would not be gearing up for a potential playoff run. So it's interesting how things kind of come full circle in the NFL. But Mo, I mean, all the props in the world to Gardner Minshew, because who would have thought this? Colts fans, Mo, would not have thought that Gardner Minshew was going to take over this team and have them in position to make a playoff run with 6 weeks to go in the season in a very competitive division where the Texans are also a surprising 6-5. That would probably be the other candidate for most surprising team this season. And then the Jaguars are leading the division and looking pretty good themselves, and the Colts are right in the middle of all of it.
Diehard Colts fans, if they're being honest, did not expect this team to do this well this season. I honestly, with Anthony Richardson, I didn't think they would be this good. So they have overachieved to this point, and let's credit the coaching staff and the value once again of the backup quarterback. But this is a very good football team that's put themselves in a position to contend for a playoff spot. And you're right. Look, without JT, the next 3 games, they are manageable. Like you said, the Steelers will be the toughest challenge, but without any more injuries to the team going forward, when you look at the challenges that they have that face them on the back end of the season, why wouldn't they be there? Like you said it, they could easily come out of the other side of that and be facing the Texans. One of them's going to make the playoffs and one of them not. And I love the idea of winner takes everything. 2 surprising teams in the same division, right? And they're doing it in different ways. A veteran journeyman quarterback is leading the Colts. A rookie quarterback who's come out of nowhere right now, and he looks like the next big thing, at least this point in his career. We'll see, because you and other people have always told me once we get film on people, you can kind of better gauge who they are and what they really are going forward. But I am enjoying the fight in that division. The Jags seem to be the clear-cut leader, the better team in that division. But I don't think it's clear-cut who the next best team is.
No, I agree. And, we talk about Jacksonville, and we're not trying to slight Jacksonville, but we've pointed out the fact that Jacksonville has been a little up and down this season, and that's fair. And depending on what Jacksonville does the rest of the way, if they get back into their up and down habits, Mo, it's not out of the realm of possibility that at the end of the season, Jacksonville's 8-3 right now. We think that they're going to coast to this division because they have a comfortable 2-game lead. It's not out of the realm of possibility if Jacksonville starts playing, 500 football or just below 500 football, that maybe all 3 teams are in the mix come the end of the season. And then that game between Jacksonville and Houston becomes that much more of a deal when potentially the division might be on the line. So it's great to have these conversations because it means that there's 3 viable teams all in the same division, and you don't get that a lot.
You don't. And even though Jacksonville to me is the runaway favorite, how do we know that they won't have a great finishing kick and maybe they falter? Maybe they come back to earth and suddenly, like you said, it starts looking like the NFC South, which is nothing but pure insanity over there. But yeah, I love it for all 3 fan bases, and I love it for NFL fans in general because you get to sit back and watch the last few weeks of the season in that division. I think almost every game will feel like a playoff game.
And for Jag fans out there who are saying, knock it off, we're going to be fine. I looked at your schedule. You probably are going to be fine. But I will say this. 2 of your next 3 games are against the Browns and the Ravens. If you drop those 2 games, which you might, even though the rest of your schedule is pretty simple looking, it would at least create some drama potentially going into the final 3 weeks of the season if you happen to lose those 2. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Mo, we got news yesterday that, and I chuckled when I saw it, it said unless there is a miracle, Staley is not going to be the head coach of the Chargers next season. The consensus around the organization is that they are done with him and they will not make a change mid-season this year. They will let the season play out. But at the end of the season, it looks like there is going to be a coaching change. And Mo, it's hard not to say, well, duh, when you have the names connected to that job that have been connected to it. Harbaugh's name has been connected to it. Bill Belichick's name has been connected to it. And let's be honest, both of those coaches far superior to what they have now.
No question.
Then on top of that, you look at the fact that this team isn't playing well and hasn't played well up to its potential, at least. Staley's entire tenure with the Chargers. Most of us don't know why he's still employed today as it is. Most of us don't know why he was still employed after the playoff collapse at the end of last season. But now it finally looks like the Chargers are going to pull the trigger and they're going to make the move. So the next question is, who is going to be the next coach of the Los Angeles Chargers? Mo, all things considered equal, let's say the Chargers had a shot at both Harbaugh and Belichick. If they could pick one, which one would you pick?
I know this is going to seem wild, but I would pick Harbaugh. I would pick Harbaugh. He's a little bit younger. He is more of a mad scientist. He's the one for sure. I know he will get his own offensive coordinator, but he will push Justin Herbert. It's just how Harbaugh works. He will push Justin. People forget Jim Harbaugh played quarterback in the NFL. He did. He wasn't an elite quarterback, but he was one of those hard-nosed guys that found a way to get it done when he did play. I think he's a more offensive-minded coach, and we're in an offensive-minded league. He is exactly, to me, what the Chargers need. Don't get me wrong. If Belichick were the coach, significant upgrade, and he would coach up that defense. I have no doubt. But I'm looking at the strength of that team, and I still think it's the offense. I would go with Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, I would too, and mostly for the reasons that you just said. And I take nothing away from Bill Belichick. I think that if Bill Belichick got his hands on that Chargers defense, you would be looking at the best defense in the league next season, hands down. To give him that many toys in the treasure chest, to give him that much talent on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, you saw what he did with Patriots teams where they weren't household names until he made them household names, right? That's what he does. He elevates defensive talent. And when you're already giving him great talent to elevate, it's only going to be that much greater. But I just struggle with what we've seen Bill do with quarterbacks. And I don't think that Justin Herbert is Tom Brady. I don't think he is the type of quarterback where he can just figure it out on his own. If you just figure out the defensive side, he can just figure out the offense on his own, which is what Tom was eventually able to do, right? The defense led the way the first handful of years, and then Tom figured it out. And then Tom grew into the quarterback that he was set to become. And then it was Tom's show from that point on. And I don't know if Justin, has that in him. Maybe he does. Maybe he does, and it's just untapped, and we haven't seen it yet. But if I'm the Chargers, do I want to roll the dice on that? Or would I rather bring in the guy that I know can get the best out of my franchise quarterback?
Right. I think that Bill has a certain coaching style. I don't know if battering somebody mentally. I don't know if Herbert's the guy to stand up to that. I don't know if that's good for him. You said it. Brady was one of one. He was a system quarterback until he became the system. He became the system. And like you said, the defense carried him for the first maybe 3 of those titles, but everything after that was him. Everything after that was him. And I think Justin Herbert is incredibly talented, but like you said, he's not Tom Brady. And don't feel insulted, Justin Herbert or Justin Herbert fans. Mostly everybody's not Tom Brady. There's 1 or 2 guys, and his name's Mahomes, and the other guy potentially Burrow or Tom Brady-ish. But there's one Tom Brady, and I think that in this era of football, your own ownership has to look at what you have, and your mission is to set your talent up for success. Their best shot of success to me is Jim Harbaugh.
Oh, I agree completely. Well, let's take a quick look before we head to our final break. Let's take a look at the AFC playoff picture. We talked a little bit about the NFC playoff picture yesterday, but if we look over to the AFC, right now your division leaders are atop of the board. You got the Baltimore Ravens at 9-3. They currently have the 1 seed. They are on a bye this week, which is going to give the Kansas City Chiefs, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Miami Dolphins, who are all 8-3, an opportunity to catch up with the Ravens, and we could come out of Week 13 with 4 9-3 teams atop of the AFC. This week, the Chiefs play the Packers. They're going to be favored in that game. The Jaguars play the Bengals. They are going to be favored in that game. And the Dolphins play the Commanders. They are going to be favored in that game. So unless we see any upsets, it's going to be a 4-way tie at 9-3 atop of the AFC. And then we get down to our wild card teams. Right now we have Pittsburgh and Cleveland at 7-4. Again, they're going to be favored this week. The Steelers are favored against the Cardinals. The Browns are favored against the Rams. And then we have the Indianapolis Colts, who are 6-5. They are going to be favored against the Titans. Now, when you take a look back at what's right behind them, because right behind the Indianapolis Colts, we have the Houston Texans at 6-5, the Denver Broncos at 6-5. They play each other this week, Mo. And we're not going to pick the game right now, but that's going to have huge playoff implications for both of those teams with 6 weeks to go in the season, because not only will it be impacting their conference record, which is one of the big tiebreakers for seeding when it comes to ties. It's going to be a head-to-head matchup, which is going to be a tiebreaker, and they're currently tied as we speak. So that's going to be a huge game for both of those squads. And then right behind them, we have the Buffalo Bills, who are on a bye this week, so they're not going to be doing much of anything. Hopefully they're figuring their lives out. And then still in the playoff conversation, we have the Cincinnati Bengals, who are 5-6. We already mentioned they're going to be an underdog this week, but if they were to upset the Jaguars, they're going to put themselves back in the playoff conversation. They're currently the 11 seed. And then we have the Las Vegas Raiders, who currently sit here at 5-7. Most people have written them off, But if they win a couple of games, they could put themselves back in this conversation as well. But realistically, Mo, you're looking at 11 teams from the Ravens down to the Bengals. And I get it. The Bengals don't have Joe Burrow, so we don't expect them to do much. But it doesn't change the fact you're an upset win away from the Jaguars, which we've seen the Jaguars lose some games they shouldn't lose this season, from being back into the playoff conversation. Mo, taking a look at the teams I just mentioned, and I'll say them again real quick, the teams who are on the outside looking in, the Texans, the Broncos, the Bills, the Bengals, and I'm going to throw the Raiders in there. If you had to pick one of those teams that can break through and take the 7th seed or take the 6th seed, which of those teams would you have the most confidence in as the way things stand this morning?
Crazy as it may seem, I think it's the Broncos.
That's wild, Mo.
That's crazy as it may seem. I know.
They were dead 70-20.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, courtesy of your team. Right.
70-20. They were done.
An embarrassment to the league, right? In the history of football, that didn't happen. But I think that what they're doing defensively, they're not just stopping people, they're taking the ball away. And they are setting Russell Wilson and the offense up with short sides of the field. I understand what Sean Payton is doing. I don't have to agree with it, but it is working. He is playing possession offense.
Not pretty.
It is not pretty, but when you least expect it, look up and they will run off 7, 8, 9 minutes. Like it is not. It's not a pretty game, but he is trying to possess the football, keep other teams' offenses off the field, and rely on his defense. And Russell Wilson making timely passes. It has worked. It has worked. Like I said, it's not entertaining to watch unless you're a Bronco fan because they're winning football games this way. So I think they have a formula for success, and it's working. I think it's the Broncos.
If you look at last week's game and you just look at the score, so if you didn't watch the game and you're just kind of going through and you're checking out scores, you're like, man, the Broncos won. They put up 29 on that Cleveland defense. That's incredible. Then you go to the box score real quick and you're like, oh, Russ passed for 134.
Right.
Oh, and they didn't have a 100-yard rusher.
Right.
They had a 60-yard rusher and a 50-yard rusher. And then
Yeah.
Russ added 30 on the back end. So you're like, oh, okay. But Mo, that's how they're doing it. They had 3 takeaways, or maybe they had 4 takeaways.
Mm-hmm.
They've had 3 takeaways at least in 3 consecutive games.
Right.
So like you said, the defense is getting Russ the ball back in short fields. They're not pushing the ball down the field. There is no deep passing game.
No.
They're not breaking off chunk plays. What they're doing is they're kind of doing what Tom Brady would do to you sometimes. They're diming you all the way down the field. Dink and dunk, dink and dunk, dink and dunk. And they're taking 7-8 minutes off the clock. And yeah, sometimes their drive ends in a field goal. But then you look up at the clock and you're like, that was an 8-minute field goal drive.
Right.
It took 8 minutes to get 3 points.
Right.
So
when you be disappointed, like all you got was 3?
No, they're like, yeah, we took 8.
That's what they're looking at. We took 8 minutes off the clock, though. Right.
And that's 8 minutes that your offense isn't on the field. And then you start taking the ball away, 2, 3, 4 times a game with those 7-8 minute drives. And the other team just doesn't have enough possessions to do anything. So, and again, it's not pretty football. It might be fun to watch if you're a Broncos fan, but the play calling hasn't changed. It's still vanilla. It's still safe. Vanilla. It's tough to watch at times, but Mo, it's working. It is working. That's all that matters, right?
And every now and then, right, you'll watch a Broncos game and Russ will do some kind of pivot, and you're like, oh, what is he doing? Right. And Sean Payton is like, no. And Russ will throw a touchdown pass to the deep corner, and Sean Payton's like, yes. Okay.
That's the one. That's the one you get.
Right. He will congratulate Russ on the sideline and at the same time go, don't do that again.
Right. We do it my way here, sir.
Right. We don't do that. No improvising.
All right, Mo, we're going to take our last break. When we come back, we are going to talk about who is the best quarterback in the NFL right now. We are also going to break down, what was our last topic today? Oh, we're going to talk about the MVP race and which non-quarterback should be considered for the MVP race. And we're going to do that on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere. We got the final segment coming up this morning. It's Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show here on Sports Empire Network.
Hey guys, it's Pavel the Cat.
And Evan Rev Reynolds.
And we are Two Guys in Hockey Talk. We are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time to talk all things hockey. What are we talking about, Evan?
We talk KHL, AHL, ETHL, every HL hockey league you can think about, prospects, juniors, even the professional women's hockey league.
Yeah, we love it. And we have a website, Two Guys in Hockey Talk. So give us a follow. We got articles on all things related to hockey, and we're writing all throughout the season. So make sure you tune in. We're also on X or Twitter. You can find me at hockey_2, and
you can follow me at Revan Ev. Or you can also go to twoguysandhockeytalk.com to follow everything.
We love hearing from you guys, so make sure you tune in, comment, like, give us a follow on our Facebook and YouTube page. We love hearing from you guys, and it's a blast talking all things hockey, right, Evan?
Hey, man, it is. So, as we say every show, in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome back. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. And Mo, I saw this yesterday, and I was excited to talk to you about it because it literally blew my mind. And I love a good hot take. I like a good hot take, especially if you can back up your hot take, or if I can back up your hot take. Because sometimes people make hot takes, and I'm like, well, that was a terrible defense. I have a better argument for it. But if there's a good argument to be had, I love it being brought to the table. But I couldn't come up with one for this, Mo. So let me kind of lay it out for you. We know that Bleacher Report gives everybody a talk show now on that app. Every time you go to the Bleacher Report app, somebody's talking about something. And sometimes it's an actual person we know, like a Micah Parsons or the kid from Colorado. But a lot of times it's just these random Bleacher Report people. And it's like, oh, okay, that's fun. Good for them. And I saw one of these yesterday. And I don't know the gentleman's name, so I apologize to him for that. But what he was doing was he was ranking the 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL through the first 12 weeks of the season. So his qualifier was right now. The first 12 weeks of the season, heading into week 13, these are who he feels are currently the 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL. So number 10, he had Trevor Lawrence. Number 9 was Jared Goff. Number 8 was Brock Purdy. Number 7 was Justin Herbert. So I saw that and I said, that's a little high for Herbert, I feel. Don't know if he's been playing the best football this season, but okay. Number 6 was Dak Prescott. Number 5 is CJ Stroud. Number 4 is Jalen Hurts. That one also kind of surprised me a little bit. I thought Jalen was a little bit low. Number 3 is Lamar Jackson. Number 2 is Patrick Mahomes. And number 1 is the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen. And this gentleman claims, Mo, that despite the struggles of the Buffalo Bills this season and the fact that they are 6-6, that is not Josh Allen's fault. He said that Josh Allen is playing at an elite level, and it's the rest of the team that is struggling around him, and that one quarterback, cannot uplift the team, and that is why the Buffalo Bills are 6-6, despite the elite level of football that Josh Allen has been playing this season. Now, Mo, before I give you the chance to respond to that, my first thought was, well, okay, if Josh Allen is playing elite football this season, and it's just the rest of the team around him that is, letting Josh down more or less, as this gentleman was saying, well, let's pull up Josh Allen's stats from this year to take a look at the elite football that he's playing this year. So through 12 games, he's completing 68% of his passes. That does put him on par with some of the other top names in the league. It's not the top of the board, but it's up there. He's passed for 3,214 yards, 24 touchdowns, which also has him up in the top 5 with the rest of the quarterbacks. But Mo, he has 13 interceptions. And for me, isn't that where this argument should break down?
I think that's where the argument should begin. And you said 13 interceptions. Don't forget, I don't know the exact number. He's got more than his share of lost fumbles as well.
Didn't include those. Didn't even talk about those.
Right. The team, Yeah, you lose as a team, right? He doesn't play defense. No argument there. But when the defense has to come out there after you've turned the ball over and the other team has it in your territory with the short side of the field, you put the defense in a hole. You know what I mean? They just got off the field. You lose a fumble or you throw a pick, they're back on the field. That can be demoralizing. I think Josh Allen is an elite talent, and he is a top 10 quarterback. Nobody would question that. Number one? I don't see number one. Look, numbers are, they matter, but they shouldn't be your only metric. Patrick Mahomes is not having his best season. He really isn't. But I would still have Patrick Mahomes number one. I'm looking at the weapons that he's doing it with, and I would still have Patrick Mahomes number one. I don't think Jalen Hurts has kind of been up and down, but I would still have him in my top three. I would, because he gets it done. He just gets it done, especially in clutch time. I'm with you. I don't know why Justin Herbert was that high. If he's in the top 10, he's 10, right? He's 10 because he hasn't played well, not when it mattered most. But to say Josh Allen is at the top of the board, I don't get that at all. Like you would have had a better case, even though I would have laughed it off if you told me Dak Prescott was number one. That Dak Prescott is actually playing better than Josh Allen, right? And I don't know how if we're going right now, Dak would be ahead of Josh Allen, and his team is winning. I'm just saying. I'm going to go and still have Patrick Mahomes number one. And by the way, Tua's not in the top 10.
That was my biggest issue right there.
What?
I'm not trying to be a homer, but I don't know how you are going to make a top 10 quarterback list for this season and have this season be the only qualifier that you need, and you are not going to put my man Tua Tagovailoa in the top 10.
You're saying right now, how is he not in the top 10?
Tua is, real quick, Tua is fourth in the league in passing yards. He is second in the league in yards per attempt behind Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy, 9.4 yards per attempt. God damn, Brock Purdy. What are you doing over there in San Francisco?
He's throwing the ball about 10 yards, and Deebo Samuels and Brandon Ayuk and Kittles, they break a lot of tackles.
You take it. Tua is third in the league in passing touchdowns. By the way, Josh Allen is the league leader in passing touchdowns with 24. Dak Prescott has 23. Tua has 22. Mahomes has 21. And then Russell Wilson and Justin Herbert have 20. But again, Josh has played an extra game, so those numbers are going to kind of even out after this week, and we'll kind of see where everyone is on even footing. I will admit, turnovers have been an issue for Tua this season. He has 10 picks. He had 2 against the Jets, and they were both stupid and idiotic in my opinion. But who leads the league in interceptions, Mo? It's Josh Allen. Well, it's also Sam Howell, in all fairness. It's also Mac Jones. He's right behind them with 12. That's the guy.
If you're right next to Mac Jones, that can't be good.
That's the guy, right? Josh Allen and Sam Howell.
So clearly, this gentleman that did this, Chris, I don't know his name either. Clearly, come on, man, you're clearly a Bills fan. If you're not a Bills fan, you're an out and out Josh Allen fan. One of the two or both, right? Because you're not really doing this in a balanced way. Not really. You can make a case that Josh is still in the top 5 or 6, but not number one. Like I said. Throw in the fumbles lost. He's got to be runaway leader in turnovers.
Also, the other thing that I noticed while I was looking through stats here, Mo, and this doesn't get talked about a lot, and I'm not coming for Philly fans this morning, but Hurts has 10 picks. So, and I know it hasn't hurt him yet, and I know that they've overcome a lot to find ways to win, but I'm a fair guy. I think Tua's 10 picks are about 4 too many because I've seen all 10 of them, and some of them are ridiculous. And they're not all just tip balls and, drop passes into other people's arms. And I'm sure that, some of Hurts are those type of situations, but picks are picks. And they both got 10. So all I'm saying is, as a Dolphin fan, if I can acknowledge it's an issue for Tua, it's too many picks. I know Eagles fans don't like to talk about it, because they're 9-1, Mo, and they're winning all these games. But there might be a time, and it might be this weekend against a really good defense in a really big game where the picks aren't the best thing to be happening. So that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
Look, they're the best team in football.
Yep.
And they find a way to win football games. I will say this, and I don't think this is being over the top. If he plays the way he played last weekend versus us, then we're going to win the football game. I'll just be that clear cut. He won't get away with that against that team. He has to play a cleaner and a better football game if they're going to win. I'll just say that. You could say, because how the teams are matched up, it might just come down to who's better that night, Hurts or Purdy.
And just to follow up, Josh Allen has 4 fumbles this season. 3 of them are fumbles lost. So he has 16 turnovers that belong to just him during this season. And if you look over Josh Allen's career, he has had at least 3 fumbles lost every year since his rookie season. His rookie season, he only played 11 games and he lost 2 that season. So he has 23 lost fumbles. He has 56 total fumbles in his career. 23 of them are lost. So this has been something that Josh Allen's had an issue with since day one into the NFL. And even when he was playing better with Brian Daboll, not even Daboll could clean up the ball security stuff. He still lost fumbles in that season as well. That was the 2021 season. So he fumbled the ball 8 times that year and lost 3 of them. So it's been an issue, Mo.
He's a gifted player, but oftentimes if you watch the Bills play, when he runs, he holds the ball in one hand like a loaf of bread. So there's going to be opportunities for the defender to swipe down on the football and stuff like that. I'm not here to tell the guy who did the podcast that Josh Allen is not one of the best quarterbacks in football. He's just not the best quarterback in football. He's not. That's just a harsh reality. There are 3 or 4 guys I would have ahead of him because they're just playing better football, period.
Well, before we get out of here, we got about 60 seconds left. I'm going to throw it at you real quick. If we were to give the MVP to a non-quarterback, I'm going to give you 3 names, and one of them is going to be near and dear to your heart. Myles Garrett, Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill. We know it's probably going to go to a quarterback, but if you were to give it to a non-quarterback, which of those 3 would you give it to?
Well, let me say this, being fair. If Tyreek hits the 2,000 mark and adds some more touchdowns, which he will, he's going to add more touchdowns. That's historic. And the Dolphins are a winning team. I don't know how you don't take in consideration that historic achievement, because it's not like every year wide receivers crack the 2,000 mark. It just doesn't happen. And he's about to be the first to do such a thing. That has to get him some extra consideration. Now, that's just me being fair. I think as great as Myles Garrett has been, it's going to be tough because the Browns can still lose football games and he might get you a couple of sacks and still be very disruptive because of their offense. Christian McCaffrey's in a good position. I would say for the non-quarterbacks, him and Tyreek are probably right there. I would give Tyreek the edge because, like I said, he's about to do something that's never been done before, and you got to give him extra consideration because of that.
Yeah, Tyreek's currently at 1,324 yards. He is on pace to break 2,000. He also currently has 10 touchdowns. He's on pace to end the season around 15 or 16 touchdowns, which would be a career high for him. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I have a gut feeling, though, even if he does it, I think it's still going to go to a quarterback. It's a quarterback award.
I think you're right, but it shouldn't be that way. They need to do something about that, but I think you're right.
All right, Mo. Great show this morning. Close us out, sir.
Appreciate everybody for the support. Thank you for everybody for checking us out. Check us out again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Check out all the talent on Sports Empire Network. Check out the Empire.
Tomorrow morning, we got a special guest tomorrow morning. Not only is JG going to be here, but Key is going to be here tomorrow morning, a day early. And I think we all know who we're going to be talking about, Mr. CM Punk. That will be happening tomorrow morning here on Coffee and Sports. Make sure you're here, same time, same place. We'll see you in the morning.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face.
Oh, from Brooklyn.
Hey, isn't he?